I hope you don't mind me doing this. I did not plan on pulling my wrist.
You ready?
Yep. Are you ready?
Greetings, brothers and sisters.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And so we begin. What questions do you have for us today?
I'm always excited about these conversations. Thank you. I really, sat with and listened to and intellectualized last week's conversation on the intellect, and it hit me what, like, let's get definitions down. I think it's important, for me at least. What do you mean by intellect?
Intellect is a collection of information that you have gained from this world. It is bad to do this. It is good to do this. This is the proper way of doing that. This is the definition of this. The intellect looks at the world, the physical world that is within, and uses information that is stored to deduce what is right, what is wrong, without realizing even those are stored information. Hence the expression, the greatest purpose the intellect holds, once you are back into your knowing, is to balance the checkbook. A physical activity.
Wonderful.
Does that clarify this definition?
We're gonna clarify it even more. How? Because then it clarifies the difference between intellect and knowing. What's the difference between intellect and thoughts?
Intellect and what?
Thoughts.
Thought.
Should I get hearing aids? Or we're good?
We're good. Just
Okay.
speak a little bit louder.
Yeah. What's the difference between intellect and thoughts?
Thoughts is the process of deducing. There is nothing that you think about that you aren't trying to deduce something, to come to a conclusion, an understanding. Now, this could be led to a higher purpose of a realization if guided by the knowing. But without the knowing, the one who has the reins is the ego. The sense of self of the collected knowledge gained.
So, intellect is a collection of information, like data packets, and then thoughts are using that information and putting it together and like coming to conclusions and stuff.
Correct.
So, I guess for David, in astrological terms, I guess intellect would be like Gemini collecting a bunch of information, and then thought would be like Virgo organizing it, etc., etc., etc. And then and then the knowing, I guess, would be like Sagittarius, or I don't know, but that would be like the difference where intellect is collecting information and thoughts are putting that information together and making conclusions.
You're getting, with what you were saying with the astrology, and you'll forgive us,
That's fine.
the portable vacuum
Interrupted.
distracted.
Yeah.
So, what you were saying about the astrological aspects, we're not going to call it a chart, we're going to call it aspects, is closer to the truth than you realize.
Wonderful.
Because it becomes a question of who is speaking now. Now, we want to mention this, but not go off track with your question. But it's something to advance the understanding of the voices within. There is the aspect that is looking at this and that intellectually. And balancing it, understanding that there is no absolute truth within this. Both are truth depending upon its perspective.
It's a very Libra thing,
Correct.
and that would be like the other. It's interesting because there's this thing of like Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius being air signs, and I heard somewhere and it stuck with me. I guess the initial thing is like to dismiss, air sign is associated with intellect and thinking and and neuroses, but someone had made the statement and I'm like, oh wow, that really, really, really makes sense. But air is what connects everything on Earth. The air I breathe now, within the next 2 months, would have permeated everything on this Earth.
And that is an accurate induction.
And then
Deduction.
And then
Thank you.
yeah, and then I think of it as well as like respiration, spirit, respire, breathing is an air activity, and that gives life. So,
And it's all connected. When you breathe out, is there not water vapor?
yes.
So water is involved.
Yep.
Within that, when the air and the energy goes into the lungs, it goes to the cells. So in that sense, is not fire evoked? And what does any of this mean if the body is not properly grounded?
Exactly.
And the fifth element, the prana, that which we always come to teach. The point of meditation and connectedness is that you breathe it in and you breathe it out with awareness of that which floats in between everything. And when you do it in awareness and you take the time to breathe it in and breathe it out, it stores within the energy cells. It activates energy centers. It begins the path of what you would call the Kundalini energy. The two serpents, fire and ice, curling between the chakras, up the spine to reach the pineal gland, which is described when illumination occurs by many yogis, that the two halves of the brain join into one, the end of duality. And what rests in the middle is the pineal gland. All symbolic, But yet there is a truth there. You are looking at the astrological aspects of the chart and being encouraged to bring it into a new light, a new era, a new day, so that the information isn't about the normal functions of Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, but lifting it to its highest aspects. How could they lift to their highest aspects without the prana?
Okay, before we go on, because this is a really cool, let's talk about prana. To go back to the original question, the process that you and I just went through, where I was starting to piece together, differentiate between intellect and thought in terms of astrological signs, and then talking about air and how it expresses and connects. That process, that mental process that happened, what is that? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes. We will say it from our perspective.
Please.
We use our sun's body, and we must use the information already present. But why can't we talk about another dimension that we are well aware of and experienced within, and talk about that? Because the tools we have to use to verbally discuss that lays here. And there comes a point that if we use those tools to bend a particular way, we break his free will. We can only discuss what he is comfortable being discussed within the scope of his reality. Now, as you know from experience with our son and the way that he discusses things, we are very blessed that we have a vehicle that is as expansive as him. And you have witnessed others who have stepped forward to be the voice, the vehicle, where that was not so much. And the results from that. So for that, we give credit to his training in being a channel. He is correct that the time he spent in a library as a youth, absorbing every art form, from demonology to Reiki, and everything in between, not to practice, but to know, to seek, to absorb, laid the framework of what we can discuss. And he has, for this area of the world, we shall say, there are other areas of this world where they are well more versed and expected to be so. But he is very well versed with a plethora of experience, mastering none, but understanding the tenets of many. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, the process of forming it into a concept for you is the use of the intellect. Pull from here, pull from there, pull from this, combine this, put it here, present. And within those, harmoniously, because we'll bring it back to the astrological chart, are those aspects that have been taught to serve. There is Miss Virgo, there is Miss Libra, there is Venus. The presentation, there is Leo, the scorpion, but to make it intense, give it that twist. All of those aspects within have been taught to serve for this point in time. Him dealing with the dealership, not so much.
I'm very proud of him, though.
Not so much.
I'm very proud of him, though.
So, but do you see our point?
Yeah.
What is in control is the connection. And because that is in control, is the reason why we can speak with you. It is the reason for the conversation.
By connection, you mean plugging in the...
Correct.
Okay.
He is plugged in for this space, for this time. He gets out of the way. He stands between that which is and that which will ever be.
Mm-hmm.
And comfortably sits within that space and allows it to flow through. Now, we say him, but now we deal with the astrological chart. Wouldn't the aspects have to be in agreement? What happens if Miss Virgo has an issue and doesn't want to serve? How well would we communicate? What happens if Libra doesn't understand the balance and becomes upset and sees it as skewed and can't figure it out? Do you see where we're going?
Yes.
And so
this becomes we were talking about where you're going to be traveling up and down the spider web, back and forth, kind of trying to bring the aspects into balance. That's not being plugged in. That's, for all intents and purposes, damage control, herding cats on fire.
that is your intellect trying to come to a conclusion.
Okay.
But what we didn't know of harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Based that on a past experience that wasn't to the connectedness. And everyone, seriously stop for a moment and consider. If it was not a moment of being connected to something more and just your everyday life, give yourself one example where harmony occurred. Separation did not make you itch from the inside out.
No. There's always a separation entails attention.
That is the intellect without being connected.
Mm-hmm.
A harmonious meeting between two people that just seemed to flow. Mm-hmm. And things that they didn't even know they were going to discuss was on each other's agenda, finishing each other's sentences
Sandwiches.
In a harmonious way where healing occurs on a level that they couldn't even have accomplished if they tried. Several levels occurring all harmoniously at the same time to make perfection. A moment of perfection. Is your intellect seriously capable of that? Based on the past experiences it's pulling from and its definitions of this world and its place within it and everyone else's place from that. Why is it even arguable that the intellect can bring you no peace? How could it be properly observed? Why are we even discussing this? Do you see our point?
I do, and I understand also it seems contradictory, the questioning I'm asking, but to me it's important because there's a process that's happening that happens between y'all and myself. It happened myself. There we go. It happens between David and myself. It happens when I'm doing consultations with astrological consultations, where it starts off as a discussion with information based off of language, history, personality, etc., etc., etc. But there's a process, I don't know what else to call it, a process where it goes outside conditioning, it goes outside the script, it goes into something completely new, completely different. And backtrack. Most conversations between people, in my experience, it's based off of a script. How you doing? Da da da. Oh, those Eagles in their baseball game. What about those New York Jets? Or did you see what was going on in the news? There's this component of just regurgitating the same script with different words, people, places, and things. Nothing new in conversations. Nothing new in interactions. Shaving a haircut. I'm Henry VIII, I am. Second verse, same as the first. It's the same, the same, the same. But when there's this openness happening in this conversation, the intellect, thoughts, the intellect is playing a role. There's something happening, but there are many moments where it goes outside shaving a haircut. It goes outside Henry VIII I am. It goes outside the Chicago Yankees. It goes outside all that stuff into a completely new territory.
Yes.
That process, it's like the intellect is a launching pad into the unknown.
Yes.
And in exploring, playing in that unknown, it gets added into the reservoir of the intellect. So in a way, the intellect expands.
Yes.
So now when there's these conversations, go back 2 years ago or when we first met, I would be like, who the heck is this kid? We would not be able to have this conversation. But as the intellect is used as a launching pad into the unknown, into the abyss, we go into areas that I don't want to go, but we go there anyway. Coming back, it seems like the intellect as a tool now has more in its reservoir. And it's this constant expansion. That process there, launching out of the intellect into the abyss, I want to play in that space today.
You want to play?
In that space today.
Okay.
That space between the intellect and the abyss.
Well, before you go into launching anywhere, you have to understand the fuel you're using to make it happen. Or there's no point of talking about a destination if you can't turn the tourist bus on. And we've already given that answer. And so we're going to go back and rephrase it to better understand it. What you just discussed about the intellect launching into the void, launching into the unknown, being a tool to get you there, to conceptualize, to break the norms, to break the pattern of circling around what's in the data bank and staying safe with us so far. We brought up to your attention of the astrological chart and the voices within the mind, which would directly influence the intellect and the emotions. And brought in the fact of elemental harmony, and including the fifth element, prana.
Prana.
Now, in order to get the intellect to do what you suggest, wouldn't the plug have to be moved?
Yes.
That is first and foremost. The rest takes care of itself. It naturally expands. Once the plug goes in, you experienced an expanding mind and watched thoughts and emotions get rearranged to match the sponsoring energy. And it wasn't until self-will that you stepped out of it that the expansion stopped. And so people have the bravery, expand a bit, stop, expand a bit, stop, ground back into what I know. But then there are the yogis who simply plugged in and never removed it. And let the expansion continue to unfold until there was psychophysical changes to the body in reflection to match the knowing, which is exactly what occurs when you first plug in for the first time. It begins the changes. It's in keeping it plugged in that it allows it to plant the seeds to grow. Now, the intellect and the emotions do not disappear. The foundation of our conversation with you is not that you defeat the ego. You defeat the thoughts. You stop the thoughts. You stop the emotions. It's always been the foundation that you allow them to be transformed for their true purpose. They are the paint scent given by God to enjoy the universe around you. But you don't know how to properly use them. You don't understand their purpose. And without their proper connection, they become quite troublesome indeed. So the first primary basis of this conversation, launching of the thoughts, going into the expansive void, as you say, is that you are connected. The intellect is not capable of such things. Do you understand that premise?
I do. That was, I thought I had said that. I thought I said there's a point of connection and then it just expands.
We were just making it clear, and again bringing up so that you understood, if we may say, the brilliance of our explanation of the astrological chart and connecting it to this.
Okay. I'll let you finish because I'm trying not to interrupt.
We are finished.
Okay. There's that plugging in. So instead of going from intellect to void, I'm using separation. I know what I'm doing here, but I want to play in this space.
Okay.
The point before the connection, before the plugging in, we'll call it connection. The point before connection, there's that leap into it. So we're going from intellect to the unknown, to the abyss. But there's that middle step, if you want to call it middle step, of plugging in. So let's look at from intellect, and I'm even thinking even like emotional. Like you could do emotions. You listen to a Tchaikovsky symphony and you're fucking, there's no intellect there. It's all emotional, and you plug in. That space of launching into the plugging in. Let's play there. What's happening there? That it's like jumping. I'm thinking of jumping off the burning platform, like that leap right there. It's that leap. I mean, Kierkegaard calls it the leap of faith. It's that like I don't know what's going on. There's nothing to know. I can't solve this. Jump, plug in, boom. That gap there, can we discuss that? Just
Absolutely.
go into conversation about that?
Of course. What would you like to know?
I don't know. It's my first time in Disneyland. Let's show me the sights. Show me.
Okay.
Walk me around, and we'll let it unfold from there.
Okay. We will begin and give momentum for the stone to be pushed.
All right.
So, there is that point where everything is humdrum, normal, 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 normal. And then there's the shift of suddenly I am connected and I'm experiencing the grace that simply is. And the thoughts and emotions die down, and there's just a sense of bliss and knowing. But how did you get from point A to point B? What was the in-between step that clicked the switch? Mm-hmm. And it's a desire to be home. And by home, we mean in your right mind. It's like coming up for air. You're swimming underwater. And you're going across the river. But you'll have to do several stops to come up and take a gulp of air. But when you go back down underneath the water, it's its own world. The air world on top doesn't seem real. The life in the water seems very real. It's the point of those who love to scuba dive or swim underwater for doing so, is that you break reality from what's going on land and you're in a different world.
It was my first time having an actual, what I would call spiritual or experience outside myself, was deep sea diving in a sunken ship.
What a coincidence.
It was incredible.
And what created that experience was the break from the upper world. But in this situation, we're using it in reverse.
Yeah. We're Little Mermaiding it.
Eventually, you have to come up for air, and you take a gulp, and you go back to your experience of what's underwater. Mm-hmm. Moments in your life where you have that connection are not accidental. There are moments of you as a spirit coming up for air, taking a moment and reconnecting and remembering, and then going back under the water to physicality.
Those moments, and here's the thing, a lot of them are under intense tension and opposition and stress. Moments of I can't do this anymore.
Well, isn't it the same thing when you come up for a gulp of air from under the water? There is that tension of needing to breathe.
Yep.
The building of pressure. The knowing, get to the surface now.
So, playing in that space, where do we get this idea that stress and tension and pain is bad when it seems like it's an impetus for connection? Or suffering is bad? Why do we not? Why is there this wanting to get away from suffering in spiritual and religious texts when the suffering seems to be not the only, but an impetus for connection?
Can you give us an example of texts that do go ahead and quote that it's bad?
Oh, okay. Good point, because if you look at like the Buddhist text, it's like life is suffering, and as long as we desire, we suffer. And what are the 4 steps or 5 steps of Buddhism, or the tenets of Buddhism? Life is suffering. I don't know. I can't quote it, Buddhism. But isn't the point of the 8 steps or whatever to be free of suffering in Buddhism?
To be free of the attachment.
The attachment.
The attachment.
To something or attachment?
Suffering and pain, as long as you're in physicality, according to Buddhism, is ever present. It cannot be avoided.
It cannot.
And its cause is attachment.
Okay.
And we go back to the double terminated crystal that just got shattered. Oh, my crystal. The Buddhist. Oh, it changed form. It's the attachment that causes suffering. Because what makes you miss it is that its form changed.
Okay. So, suffering can be an impetus for that connection, but at some point, you don't need an impetus to stay connected anymore.
That is correct. And let us be clear on this.
Okay.
Because we do not want to make an altar to worship suffering.
That's what that crystal was for, but okay.
Now, suffering is not necessary. Suffering is not the point of the journey. Suffering is not divinely decreed by God. Those are the interpretations of the path, we would say, of lesser understanding minds, not using it as a term for bad, less than, or should be something else. They are on the path where they can best interpret it with the separation they hold.
Yeah.
So we're not saying judgment, but at the same time, you can't discuss one without the other without having some degree of honesty. If the king shows up with no bottoms on, it becomes a point of delusion to talk to him as if he had them on.
Yep.
And in this situation, he has no bottoms on. Because of the way the thoughts are arranged in separation, it becomes interpreted in that way. It has not evolved beyond yet to such toys. But suffering, in that sense, its purpose is you created it.
Okay.
You condensed the energy. Now, there is the whole idea that it is a spiritual quest to expand that energy, that this is why you were brought here, that you decided this before you took the body and planned these lessons, that you had spiritual coaches to help you organize all this for the perfect life.
Under what certification body?
Under what?
Under what certification body?
What certification body?
These spiritual coaches. But ching, it was a joke. It was a joke. I had to.
Sorry, we missed it.
Okay. But continue.
And you bring up a good point. We'll assume with what you said as if there is a degree hanging on the wall.
Yep.
For a certification
Right there,
to be
guys.
qualified. And here's where we go into the idea of angelic levels of being that allow them to have the grace to have such a say in any life. Any life. The only one who has a say in your life is you. It's your light. And there's nothing wrong with it. It is perfectly as God created. And that's what you're learning. That's what you're learning. But in order to learn that, you must stop putting the intellect as the end all and say all. And begin to realize, as many philosophers have, when they examine their intellectual mind, and they report, it's insane. It knows nothing. And is in constant fear, hiding this fact from itself and you. And through this, what insanity can occur? You have slaughtered each other, entire nations, just to be right. Just to be right. And what has history shown for nations that have done this and are right? At some point in time, it comes back and they are wrong. Our son has said an interesting perspective. And we will say it is wise, a clear observation, that every societal class that has been repressed, that has fought long and hard to not be repressed, and they gain some freedom or their freedom from the repression. The repression goes from here. Here, would you hold this for a second?
Yep.
Thank you. And it goes someplace else. But what does that class do then? They repress others.
Yep.
But not just any repression. No.
Multifolded.
They use the same repression that was used against them and now use it on others.
But with a vengeance, too.
Correct.
Because there's that added garbage.
And the question becomes, was the movement about the repression against you and the right for freedom? Or was the movement really all about You wanted your right to repress others.
It was the fact that we were a target. As long as others are targets and I'm okay, doesn't fucking matter. Sorry.
Fear.
Fear.
Fear. It's what your society teaches you. Mm-hmm. If others are the target,
Oh, man.
then this makes me safe.
All right, you want to take I'll let you finish, and I'm ready to take a hard left.
Take a what?
A hard left.
Okay. So, in this situation, looking at it, and looking at the intellect, and what it can and can't do, and that space to go in between the two, it's a choice. It's always been a choice. Mm-hmm. But it's a choice with a purpose. Pain and suffering is not there for the purpose of learning the light. You are the light.
Uh-huh.
The pain and suffering is there from your mistaken beliefs that you are not the light.
Mm-hmm. That's the separation.
And you cannot escape your creations. That which has been condensed must be expanded. And there come stages. There is the realization, this is not working. There is the realization, I am the problem.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where I go,
There I am.
there I am. And
Yep.
the problem is consistent. So therefore the problem is me.
Self-created. Me.
Now, once that occurs and you grow bored with the expression, that you do anything not to have to go through it again. Oh, look, here it is. The beginning stage. The next stage will be, yep, there it is. They're saying their lines. Now I'm supposed to say this. And there I am saying it, knowing full well I don't want to, but I'm saying it, doing my role.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, there's the result I knew that was going to happen. Oh, look, there it goes into resolution, which is not a resolution. And look, there it is going to start again. But not with this person, with someone else. But it's the same pattern. When that occurs, it then goes into thinking outside the box, if you will, that reach of if this is not real, then what is?
Mm-hmm.
And understand the foundation for the reach. The foundation for the reach is the realization that the pattern is not real. Let us repeat that. The foundation for the reach was the realization that the pattern is not real. Not wanting to escape it. Not wanting something better.
But that it's
Not wanting something more. But that the pattern itself
is not real.
is not real. Now, the mind can go through many experiences: pain, suffering, loss, hunger, cold, hot. The world of sexuality, the world of guilt, the world of shame. But what it cannot tolerate, will not, is realizing unequivocally that something is unreal.
Mm-hmm.
There is being at a job we spoke of. And when you first got there, it was exciting. It was all new. This is what I wanted. This aspect I'm experiencing right now. But then through a multitude of experiences of it day in and day out, it complicates and twists into something else entirely. And you are not happy. And it gets repetitive. And it gets boring. But you still show up and clock in, don't you?
Yep.
But the moment that you realize none of this is real, all of this is fake, everything that everyone repeats, the same patterns, is not real. It's a play. Day in, day out. Suddenly you're in a new job. Suddenly things change. The same can be said about relationships. So on and so forth. It's the realization that it is not real that starts the gulf, the bridge.
Because there's no platform. There's nothing there.
But the platform wasn't real either.
Yeah, there's nothing
So
there.
what do you have to lose?
My man.
When you realize the platform was not real, it disappears. Did you even leap?
And that's why it feels like there's a sinking feeling, and it's so easy. Is that why people close up when you start to tap, 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 tap? Because of that sinking whoom, drop in the tummy?
Well, let's look at it in reality. They are in a spaceship. And within this spaceship, it keeps out the void, the cold air. And there you are on the outside of the window saying, this ship isn't real.
Ma.
And it begins to waver. What would their first response be?
Put up the shields, freak out. You know it is real.
So why, when you come along and say, tap, 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 you're tapping on their reality? Why would they not react that way?
Exactly. That's
And what would happen, God forbid, and our son has shared this with you, where he crossed the line.
They will do anything to take you down so that they never have to be threatened
Because
again.
they still can't look at it as reality. That's wavering. So who does the blame have to go upon?
I mean, I've done that to you multiple times. I've done that to you multiple times. I've done that to David multiple times. And it's so interesting to watch it.
And correct, you have.
Because I've also noticed it in other people. And I'm glad that I notice how violently I react to you, and that's why I'll lean in and lean in and lean in. And I appreciate your saying last session, I think you've taken on too much. I'm like, bring it on. I'm like, no, I'm glad we didn't, because as I interact with others, I'm starting to notice don't tap too far. Because suicide's a thing. People take their lives over this.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
For far less than this.
Yeah.
As much as our son would hate to hear us say it, they lose their lives because they lose hope. Because they lose hope. And when that happens, the spirit will do anything to get out of the body.
Yep.
Because again, what happens if you're underwater and the pressure builds up and you don't get to air on time?
You drown.
Suicide.
Do you need to take a break?
Yes, let us take a break.
Okay. Ugh, he didn't have to tell me which one to press.
The double lines.
Damn it, David! I was so proud. Now I can't see it. A boo-boo.
Perfect.
You ready?
And we continue.
Can we continue? Oh, sorry, we switched roles. Just kidding.
The chair becomes a parable.
Let's talk about the parable of the chair, part 2.
Correct. Is a fine example of when a form has outlived its purpose and is still being clung to, even though it makes his back hurt. Because being seen as sitting in a chair is a regression.
Yep.
A new chair will be found, a new form will be made, and he already knows the chair he should create. Similar to that, but better supporting for someone with a back issue such as his. But forgive us, we had to point out the obvious and the humor within it.
And can I add to that parable? But it doesn't go to waste. You pass it on. Though you outgrow it, you pass it on to someone else who can benefit from it.
Which would be the proper release.
And there we go with service. You cannot, step 12, you cannot keep that which, unless you cannot keep the benefits of this program without giving it away.
Correct.
My man.
I
I misquoted it, y'all. Sue me.
It's the act of demonstration. That's the key.
Cannot keep what we have without giving it away.
And when you find that you are not demonstrating or unwilling to demonstrate, you go back to step 1.
My man.
Now, let us continue.
Yes. Bingo, bango, bongo. This is a great conversation. Because ultimately, this is. So I was talking to David in the break about how Nietzsche has this concept of eternal recurrence, and it's philosophy people leave hateful comments because I'm going to misquote it. Oh well. But the idea of this life that you live, imagine that it's going, after you pass, it repeats again and again and again. And so the way I take that idea is every moment is a decision. Is this the life you want to continue experiencing? And to me, it's a powerful point. It's a very, very powerful point. Now, the astute student may be like, well, how is this different from the Western fear-based conception of karma or Big Daddy God judging an eternal damnation? Oh shit. Do I really want to repeat a crappy life? That sounds like eternal punishment. Well, let me answer you. To me, it's different because in eternal recurrence, there is no outside force punishing you. You are wholly responsible for every moment of your existence. You are accountable for the decisions that you make and the perceptions you hold and the way you engage the world. Make sense so far?
Yes.
So, are you ready to take a hard left?
Yes.
Or I have a hard time buying into this idea of God. I'm just going to be honest.
Okay.
I have such a hard... I tried. Step 3 is amazing. Turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood God. It fucking works. It works. But I cannot buy into this idea of God. And you bring up God, and everything brings up God. And to me, I want to vomit every time I hear God. That's the hard pivot I want to take.
Okay.
And I don't mean to be confrontational, and I'm not being confrontational with you. I'm being confrontational with this idea. That sounds weird. But this idea of God, because to me, the idea of God is creating so much more damage in this world than necessary. It's a made-up thing so that people don't take accountability for their actions. It's the way I see it. It's the way I see it right now. And it's fueled by a lot of anger. Right now, my reaction is fueled by a lot of anger, annoyance, and like, what the hell? And confusion. I want to talk about God. And how, to me, the idea in the word God is garbage. It's garbage that is used to not take accountability for one's actions and decisions. And I make no apologies. Write to me, send me hate mail, please. I'll drop my address in the comments. I want to talk about God because every time the word comes up, I cringe, and a part of me doesn't want to take any of the information that follows seriously, and then I go back to it. But I can't deny that turning my will and my life over to the care of God works in 12 steps. It absolutely works. What is that? What's going on here?
What is what?
Exactly. What? So when you use the word God, what do you mean? Because this is where so much garbage comes. When someone throws in the word God or love or even spirituality, I'm just ready for an onslaught of garbage. I'm not, I'm being honest and genuine and authentic. I'm not being mean, but it's like, when I talk about God, I have no garbage idea what I'm talking about. When I talk about spirituality, I have no garbage idea what I'm talking about. To me, it's all, anything that comes out of people's mouths after the word God or God is or whatever is garbage to me. So when you say God, what are you talking about?
And we will answer. But perhaps not in the way that you expected.
And never is. It never is.
So we're going to go on a journey.
I am ready.
And then, as always, we'll bring it back into focus. So before we begin, we have no problem that you don't believe in God. Equally, we have no problem that you have a problem that we use that word.
Yeah.
No problem with it at all. Our understanding and experience with such an energy does not require for you to agree ever. Ever. It's not a requirement. Nor is it a requirement in order to know your mind to believe in such a thing. God is not that petty. But at points in times, we were in physicality. So it's not required. Now, giving that basis of an understanding, what we are about to say does not have the motive to try to convert you. Understood?
Oh, completely, yeah.
But we are going to point out different aspects of your mind as it evolved and relate it to a teaching we already gave so that you can understand what is unfolding in front of you.
Perfect. I want a doggy or something.
Now,
I want a doggy or something.
at one point in time, you were a Muslim.
I want a doggy or something first.
Go ahead.
Would this conversation be better? Would it be better to table this conversation and actually define what mind is, what you mean by mind, or we just go into it?
We're just going to go into it.
All right, perfect. Because I'm gonna definitely ask about the mind some more.
And we will have another conversation.
Perfect.
Now, and we think it's opportune to deal with this first
Okay.
because one reflects the other.
And it's a huge block for me. I shut down when I hear that word. I make no apologies. It's just what happens to me. I just block everything.
Okay, we will come back to that.
Yeah.
So, at one point in time, you were a Muslim. And you believed, as a Muslim should believe, to the best of your ability. You had the ability to blend among Muslims, even though you knew that you didn't belong. You knew that there were many contradictions with who you were according to what the teachings say you're supposed to be. And you looked at teachings that gave that grace to be able to still stay, but not have to really address that issue. Mm-hmm. Are we off so far?
Nope.
Did you believe in God at that time? Did you pray to such a thing?
I did.
So you had a belief in it.
It's so hard to answer that question, because looking back at it, what I genuinely want to answer is I wanted to believe. So I prayed to something.
And that is a good answer. But when you go to turn on the faucet, it's because you believe in water. Mm-hmm. Now, after the 25th time of turning on that faucet and no water comes out, you begin to recognize something might not be right here. Mm-hmm. But let us not tarnish the innocence of the original premise. You turned on the water spigot because you believed water would arrive. Mm-hmm. That was a belief. That was a belief. Mm-hmm. Was that belief dedicated onto what you believe or what you were told to believe?
What I was told to believe so that I could be approved of.
So were you seeking God's grace or were you seeking approval?
It was approval.
An important distinction.
I actually was totally afraid of God, the idea of God. I'm like, I hope this thing doesn't exist, but, mommy and my friends accept me.
And based on the stories, why would you not?
Yeah.
But it is an important distinction. You didn't understand the difference between God and the need of acceptance.
Yeah.
and you traded God for a need of acceptance and didn't know the difference. In short, you drank sand instead of water and didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
First spiritual attachment. First spiritual attachment. You with us?
Yep. I forgot which video, but it's the first set of conversations.
It was in the first set of
like
conversations
4
with
or
you.
5 of those videos.
Now, we get to the second level of spiritual attachment, which is our grace before you and our spiritual divinity. Bow, please.
Yes, sir. Oh. Touch your feet. I am so honored.
Now, within the second spiritual of attachment, and the fact that you did that sarcastically shows your true understanding of the second level of spiritual attachment. It's the idea of the icons, your place in the universe, grown beyond the societal expectations. Not just dealing with God, we haven't gotten there yet. But what about the angels? What about those who know more? What about others who are qualified more than you? Where is your sense of self? What power do you give away of yourself automatically to others to be less than? Haven't even gotten to God yet. We're just daring in the first spiritual attachment to break societal norms. You ended your stay as a Muslim, recognizing that you were looking for acceptance and found it empty. A repetitive pattern. And when did you finally decide to let that go? When you realized this is an illusion. This isn't real. Now, you knew it wasn't real for a long time before you made the final move. But once you had the full realization that I can't see this any other way, you made the move.
And I'm going to add to that. After I made the move, and to be honest, it's because I was trying to accept the fact that I like dick, and it was not compatible. But after I made that move and said, I'm done with this, for many years, it's one thing to say, I don't believe in God. It's another thing to actually embody not being a Muslim, because for many years afterwards, I still had the fear of God in me. I still acted as though Big Daddy was watching me, judging me, and if that makes sense, I still behaved as though I were a Muslim afraid of God. Even though I didn't associate with the religion anymore, I still behaved for many years afterwards. So it took a while for me to be like, oh, this whole God thing ain't real. If that makes sense.
Yes. Would you do us a favor?
Yes.
Would you close your legs?
Okay, yes.
Energy dynamics of a body. When you sit back and spread your legs that way, it's natural for the male extension to extend. And when you do that, that energy comes forth to whoever's in front of you. There is a reason for yoga poses when doing spiritual work. And sitting on a couch like you have a beer and a cigar is not one of them, for a particular reason. And especially if that person in front was another person and a female, even though your sexuality is what it is, it would make them energy-wise uncomfortable.
Yep.
There's a certain etiquette that comes into play. And we do not wish for you to sit uncomfortably. But this is the second time that that has occurred where we're bouncing the energy out and away.
All right.
So, let us continue. So, at that point, you were not within a structure, but you had not fully given up the ghost.
The ghost, yeah.
And that is a normal part of the change. It was done in increments. And when you were ready, it also affected your family life. You came out as gay. You announced your sexuality, but then you announced it to friends first.
Nope, mama.
And so on and so on.
Yep.
The evolution of Monsour, as we love to point out, is a gradual thing.
I thought the coming out thing, like, this is a very Scorpio nature. I went big. I called my viola professor first, and because he's gay, and then the first person I said straight up in front of their face was my mom. That was the first one. I went big. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I got to do it big. That's Scorpio, I guess.
And that took years of a gradual change from there.
Yep.
And you lived a time still in the shame of hiding it.
Oh man, years, even years into my marriage.
So, gradual shifts. Why the extremes? Why the expectation of the extremes? It's not in your natures. Gradual, small steps. It's an evolution. The more you appreciate them, the faster they will go. Because there's a difference between, I want to make this change, no, that's not safe, to, I want to make this small change, yes, let us have it. And appreciating it and appreciating yourself. It's that appreciation of self that allows you to take the next step. But most choose to do it until they're at the point of exhaustion from fighting it. That they finally do it and realize, well, this is not so bad. You with us?
Yeah, so it's going back to, you don't really need to suffer to plug in.
Correct. Mm-hmm. It's not necessary. It's expanding that which you contracted. Mm-hmm. And therapy deals with the reasons why. We're not concerned for the reasons, which doesn't mean that it's not important to know them to undo the trauma that you hold. But we will also say it's not necessary. If you know you need water and simply drink water, then it circumvents all the other problems. Mm-hmm. It's not in the crafting of the glass to hold the water that's the key. Any old glass will do. The key is you need water. It nourishes the body and the soul. And when you understand connection as that answer and get rid of the little nuances and have to go through the entire Pandora's box before you decide to do everything, which all of you on our subscription, it comes every monthly with a new box, a new set of problems. as soon as you scroll through your internet, you learn of them subconsciously. Look, there's this problem. Look, there's that problem. And while you stand there and scoff at it and say, that's just stupid,
Yep.
and out it surfaces. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. But only through experience do you learn of this.
We're set up to fail here with the marketing and everything.
And again, the marketing does not control your mind.
That's the importance of staying connected. And I think also seeing it and accepting this is what's going on, boom, I don't have to push it away. I don't have to resist it. In and out.
Now,
Big old juicy burger. I see it. Looks tasty. I'm good.
that was a mistakeful comment.
Why?
Because you woke your husband up to say he now wants a cheeseburger.
Well, we're getting cheeseburgers after this, so that's fine.
So,
I'm sorry. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. I'm afraid. Hold on. You gotta give me a minute. This is.
second level attachment.
I'm sorry. Cheeseburger is still first level. If we need to stop and get a cheeseburger and continue this is fine.
No.
Like.
Just certain keywords, Pavlov, dog for his desires.
Yeah.
Cheeseburgers are one of them. Now, so we get to second level attachment. And second level attachment is the beginning of looking at all the relationships that were in your first. First comes the breaking away. And as you transition through gradual changes to the second level of attachment, it's about taking your power back from those institutions. Mm-hmm. And all of them are institutions. Churches, society, community, family, school. All of them have defined you.
Work.
That's a big one. All of them have defined you. But the truth of the matter is, you are no victim.
Country?
You have related to them for acceptance.
And safety, security, protection, all these very biological things, not right or wrong and different, but looking at it.
Well, no, we want to make it really clear. And it's a painful point of acceptance. You traded your soul, the gift God gave, the essence of what you are, for acceptance from those institutions, and then have the audacity to blame them.
To complain. Exactly. That's a conundrum I'm having with this country, because when I got my citizenship a few years ago, I was just elated. I was crying. I finally felt at home. And now it's like even any country's flag is almost like an abomination to me, because to me, a flag is a symbol of division. It is. It's a symbol of division. And it disgusts me. And I'm just being honest, for me, any flag, Saudi, Nicaraguan, American, Canadian, all of them are symbols of separation, of division, of us versus them. And I bought into it. And I still do.
Yes, you do. But we're going to point out something. And this is something we said in earlier lessons. And it comes into play here. When you have a particular belief, you love pulling in your brothers and sisters to stand witness, to justify your angle. This isn't about your brothers and sisters.
It's about me.
This is about your mind. And until you accept responsibility from the second spiritual attachment,
Thank you.
that these organizations, as far as the beliefs that they taught you and where they led you to, did not take advantage of you. You only went to them because you wanted their attention and approval.
And I do that with work, which is why I burn myself out. I do that at the gym. I do that with everything. It's like this, even if there's no one there, it's a phantom of, well, I will. It's projecting a future approval.
And so we will say, Monsour, as long as you spend your time wasting your time at the second level of attachment, pulling in your brothers and sisters and bemoaning the state of affairs of the world and the suffering that is without because of these institutions, you are not taking responsibility for you seeking attention and approval. Because it's not the need for attention and approval, it's the really disruptive way that you believe it works. You don't understand the tool. You don't understand its purpose. And so you stand before someone that you think has power, and you take attention and approval and stab yourself in the chest to get attention from them. Our son does this all the time, does he not? And you're witnessing changes in his statements as of recent of a grander realization occurring. This is what's before you when you are ready. But this idea of standing and bemoaning the state of the world, those that take and those that are taken from, and all of the complexities that go into it, has nothing to do with you and your state of mind. It is about your need for approval and attention. And though you may have moved from the first spiritual attachment, you are still working out the true understanding of the second level of taking your power back from divinity, taking your power back from family, taking your power back from government, taking your power back from community, taking your power back from relationships, from work. All of those different aspects and your need, your addiction for their approval.
And this is going back to what we said earlier in the conversation of like not actually resolving or anything. It's just shifting over here. And so the only difference is I'm playing this roll out on a group scale.
And it's a matter of polarity.
A group mindy scale.
On this one, it was acceptance and blind obedience. On this one, it is the rebel.
They're both reactions to the same thing. That's what's getting. That's why I want to have this conversation about God, because my bugaboo is no more than a reaction to something. And I can't have an honest conversation about God unless I'm honest about where I am with this.
And we're getting there.
Yeah. So looking at the second spiritual attachment, it's still the same thing. It just looks different.
It is different. Because now the polarity is fight it versus blind faith to it. But the problem is there's no forgiveness. You haven't forgiven yourself for giving up your will. You haven't forgiven yourself for needing their approval. And you haven't forgiven yourself for the horrible things you've done to yourself to seek it. Horrible things. Horrible.
Let's talk about it. What horrible things?
All the times the truth came up before you and you squelched it because they said. All the things you've done in your family where you knew better and did wrong anyway. And we use the word wrong from the standpoint and sense of what you knew to be true.
Like what?
You tell us.
I mean, what? There was a time I fed Miss Candy my meds. I broke down Abraham's door and attacked him. Me giving up this household's money to seek mom's approval by buying her stuff.
How about all the times Dad focused on someone else
And I stayed quiet.
and you said nothing?
I said nothing. I was scared shitless, my man.
Yes, you were. And there are certain expectations of the age that you were. But yet, every time, and this is where no excuses. No excuses. Because when you make an excuse, you leave an opportunity.
Yeah.
You leave an opportunity on a table. But every time you knew what was right, what was the truth, this is it.
Yeah. I was too scared to do anything. And it was safer for me in my mind to stay quiet because I won't be targeted. And that's going to play out again and again and again. And it still does play out.
Now let's talk about all the times that you knew the truth of yourself. And you swore, I'm going to stick to it. And you stood before your family and lied to them. Not just to the dad, let's not just make him the bad guy, to mom, to your brothers and sisters. Plans of actions that you knew was wrong, that you should take no part in, that you were clear with yourself you wanted no part in, and you took part in it and watched it play out and watched people get hurt, just like you knew. But you couldn't break expectations. Now, we can continue going ahead and expanding that outward, but you see the essence of what we're talking about.
I do.
All those little decisions that you thought were non-consequential, you were listening. You know. And so it creates a schism.
Further separation from my from self. Further separation from the fulcrum. Further separation of all the little aspects.
And here comes the whole point of facing oneself and one's feelings towards oneself. What were the first words our son's inner child screamed at him?
Get away. Something.
You never listened to me.
You never listened to me.
In rage. In rage. And he tells the story going in that he thought, oh, I'm the good guy coming in to save the inner child. And the inner child kicked him in the face and he realized he was the enemy. He was the enemy. All along. I am the bad guy. I am the person I blame my dad to be. I am the energy that I projected onto my family of their immorality and their non-caring attitudes. I am the energy of the church and their intolerance for people like me. I am the source of rejection from all my relationships and why they rejected me. Why do we say this? Rough words, are they not? Because they required your cooperation. In order for you to be present, you had to make the decision first to treat yourself that way. Mm-hmm. Do we lie?
Because it's like, I see the equation playing out. This is the role I'm comfortable in. Let's play it out.
No, it wasn't the role you're comfortable in. We're going to not let you be not held accountable. It had nothing to do with a comfortable shoe and comfortability. At all. You say that to not take responsibility.
How am I not taking responsibility? Because even though it's comfortable, it doesn't make it right.
Because it's not about comfortability. It was about that their acceptance was more important than what you knew. Mm-hmm. Period. Comfortability makes it sound like it's a luxury feature in a car. It's not a luxury feature. You valued their attention.
More, I'm willing, I reject myself for their approval.
The only way to get their approval was to reject yourself.
Yes.
And this is where we get into the therapy aspect. You didn't know any better. You were a young child.
But there was a knowing there, though.
That is our point.
There was a knowing. As I tap into it, I was like, no, I knew.
And guess what? The knowing doesn't accept any of the excuses. Until you face it and strip naked. Strip naked. Get rid of the excuses. Get rid of the garments that never served you in the first place. They're all vestiges of your agreements to what you think held power and meaning. Second level attachment, strip it away. Make no excuses. Seek blame for no one else. And face it. Face it. Face it. I betrayed myself. I have not been my own friend. I have not supported me. I have supported me the least.
Yeah, I verily.
And we bring it back to the act of demonstration. Because all of you are on this level. You like to pretend you don't know. But that is a lie. So what were you demonstrating to those around you to not honor myself?
Because getting acceptance, wow, yeah, I see it even like,
And what were you asking them in return of such a great sacrifice?
approve of me.
For them to accept you.
No, to approve.
How could they accept you when the agreement began with you don't accept you? Mm-hmm. That's what you demonstrated.
Yeah, give yourself up for the approval of others, and you'll get by in life. Put on a happy face, wear a fancy vest.
Only a healer would see through such harshness and make the correction and say, no, no, no. You're lying to yourself, and I do not accept your gift. Only someone self-aware that has stripped naked and faced that part of the knowing and made no excuses. I have betrayed myself. Mm-hmm. I don't know who I am. And I don't know until you show me. I can't change what I've done. I can only commit to what I will do now. Let's work it out. Let us become whole. Let what has been separated become one. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's in everything.
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 And now we go right back where we started, to God. Because you're doing it with that energy as well. And we are going to say what you are doing is extremely normal. It's part of the healing process. Our intensity, excuse us while we whip out the Scorpio nature, our intensity with you in this session on this particular subject is not about the fact that you shouldn't be doing it, you shouldn't have done it, or that you're any place than exactly where you need to be. Our intention is to sharpen the tool so you can successfully use it, because that's what you're going for. Mm-hmm. That's what you're trying to understand. That's what the question really is all about, though you can't see that yet. What have we said about understanding God? Repetitively, if you remember.
I shut down every time that word comes up. To know God is to, I don't know.
You can only know God on the equal level that you know yourself. Period.
Period. So not even accepting myself, how can I even accept God?
And hence your dilemma.
Yeah, so therein lies the block, that loop-de-loop. It's never going to happen
Unless
there's that full and total acceptance of self, and not Monsour Dragon's Bane Majir, but the self.
And you
Whatever that
don't
means.
know what it is yet because you've been detached from it.
Mm-hmm.
You have not worked out an agreement. You have not sworn to become its protector. You have not sworn to change your ways. You have not owned your actions. You have not approached it with no excuses. Stripped naked, I stand before you, and I surrender. Show me the truth. Show me the truth. And it waits. And in the meantime, you project the issue outward. It's so easy.
To point it out in others.
Let's blame the church. Let's blame the corporations. Let's blame work. Let's blame God.
Let's blame the family.
Let's blame the family. All of it is an agreement. And all of it began with a demonstration. Whose demonstration? I sit before you a cup of poison. There's only one way for you to become poisoned with that cup.
To drink it.
And then you turn to me and say, do you respect me? No, you just drank a cup of poison. You're stupid. Do you see it?
I can't not see it.
It all begins with you. And all of it is because of your obsessive belief that attention and approval comes from others. And even when you get it, it is unfulfilling, and you find it has conditions. You find out that they didn't really approve you.
So I work even harder to secure it even more. And it's an endless cycle of perfection, hard work, grind, for others.
And so when comes the point, our brother, that you realize this is an illusion?
When I can't fucking function anymore.
And we come back to that platform. And so there you stand, platform on fire. And now we wait. How long? You stand there suffering before you leap. How much pain will it take? Because no one can help you with this. It is about your relationship with your own mind. And though it sounds like we avoided the God issue.
No, it's going to be revisited over and over. I'm not at a point of actually getting into it.
And it always comes to pass that when you talk about God, you should equally talk about the person, because the relationship is equal. You can only perceive God on the same level that you perceive your true self, your inner self, because it's a doorway that energy speaks through. Now, is that real or is that false? Who cares at this point? Does it really matter? How will it change anything? Is it to gain its approval, its favors? What's the point? Go for the true source, Monsour. And quit blaming everything else around you in this state of the world and what they are doing. You are wasting time.
Yeah, I am.
You are wasting time. It will have 0 calories and feed you not at all. Now, on that note, we come back to the cheeseburger. So unless there is a clarification question, we will take our leave.
No, I think this is wonderful. We'll pick up next week or the week after or whenever.
Good.
Yeah.
And our peace to you.
Thank you. Cheeseburger is paradise.
Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger.
You want Five Guys? You want...
Absolutely, I want Five Guys. Then I want a cheeseburger.
Oh, fuck yeah, daddy.
I think that's the most intense they've been with you. At least
You
what
know...
felt like coming through me.
Yeah, that...